Excellent. How's everyone doing today?
Great.
Good, thank you. That's good energy. Excellent. So I'm going to share my screen and we will jump into some slides that we have today. Well, super. All right. Now, can everyone see this? Great. Okay. So why is everyone here today? Hopefully you're in the right place. So what we're going to talk about today, here's our learning agenda for the day. So we're here to talk about strengths and how and why strengths are valuable for you in your life, whether you're in a job search or whether you're looking to advance in your career. So we'll talk about these topics. Why is it valuable to know them? How do you even go about identifying and articulating them if you don't know them already? And then how can you leverage your strengths either in a job search or to align with your career goals? So hopefully you're in the right place. And this is really an open and interactive session today. So if you do have questions, feel free to stop at any time and ask any of those questions, because I want to make sure that you're feeling like you leave here with some good new information today. Really, the key, as we said, is that whether you're looking for a new job or for more satisfaction in your existing role, understanding your strengths can really help set you up for more success and happiness. Really, at the end of the day, I think happiness is the crux of what we're all trying to get after. Super. So who am I? If you don't know me already, I know many of you on here, so thank you all for joining me today. My name is Heidi, and I am from Kogan Coaching. So I'm a leadership and career coach, and I have a passion for helping women empower themselves so they can make their dreams a reality. I come to coaching from a career in the corporate world after 26 years of leading teams and managing groups in different functional areas. I combine that with an MBA and professional coach training to create a results-oriented approach that will help you reach your goals. So that's where we're here today. How can we leverage your strengths to help you reach your own goals? Super. So baseline of what we're talking about today, we're going to talk about strengths and skills, and want to make sure we understand the definitions of those, because those terms can get kind of thrown around, confused, convoluted, and so really want to dig into what the differences of these are. So strengths, what are strengths? Really, it is your talent, your innate abilities. These are really hardwired into you. It might be, I know some people on the call have this intense competitive drive. You may be someone else who has, a sensitivity to other people and their feelings. You may be someone who's naturally really outgoing and really good at social gatherings. And so these things are hardwired into who we are. Skills, on the other hand, could be hard or soft, otherwise known in my world as human skills, are things that you actually, they're abilities that you perform and tasks that you learn through training and knowledge. And so these are some of the ones that are listed here. These are some of the hard skills that you may have. These skills, and it really important for both of these, is that you may be born with these, but you don't rest on those laurels. You want to continue to build on those talents that you have so that you can develop them into strengths. And we'll get into more about that as we go through the session today. Anyone have any questions so far? You're in the right place. Anything, any other questions just about the basics that we're talking about here today? Okay. So now I want to get into just seeing where everyone is, right? So hopefully y'all signed up because there's something about wanting to understand or identify your strengths or be able to articulate them. So let's have a couple of polls, but before we go there, I love this quote. I don't know if you've seen this one before, but everyone is a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it's going to live its whole life feeling like it's stupid, right? And I think what can happen to us so many times if we're in the wrong environment and we're measuring ourselves against other people that have different skills and talents than we do, that we never see ourselves with the ability to have genius. So how do we create and find those places where our focus can be on what we do well? Great. So we're going to dig into a poll here. First question we have on identifying strengths. Can you identify your own strength? We'll give it a few seconds. Go in here, no, from, the lowest end, no, you absolutely cannot identify your strengths at this point, to all the way up. Yeah, I'm absolutely 100% confident that I know my strengths. All right, we'll give it another few seconds here. It looks like just about everyone's completed the poll. There we go. All right, the results. And can everyone see the results here? Okay. Not too surprising. I'm feeling good. Some people are feeling really comfortable that they know their strengths, and that's great. And that more people, more than half of the people, either somewhat unsure or not really sure they could. They probably know some of them, right? We all know a few that you've had, but really digging into those strengths is why we're here, to help you understand the value of that. Super. So then one more question here. Nope, we'll go back into this other one. What's your comfort level in being able to articulate those strengths? How comfortable are you? Are you very uncomfortable? You just absolutely don't think you could talk about it, all the way to 100% confident? Okay. Looks like everyone has shared their answers. So, the majority here, uncomfortable, probably could use a little bit of help, needing to get a little bit more confident, all the way up to some feeling extremely confident that they're able to articulate their strengths. So that gives me a good baseline of where we are as far as understanding strengths. And now we'll talk a little bit about, what's the benefit of actually knowing them, right? And so who cares? Like, do we need to know our strengths? Why does it matter? Well, I would go so far to say is strengths are your value, not your only value, but value that you do bring to the world, right? That it's really interesting that it's not really a surprise, but I think we don't always realize that your strengths are unique to you, right? That not everybody has all the same strengths, right? So I can tell you, prior to doing my own work, identifying and better understanding my strengths, I remember thinking that my ability to read people, their body language and their emotions was something that everyone could do, because it came easy to me. I could walk into a room and really be able to tell right away what the mood of the room, what was going on, and really deeply be able to understand what was going on. I soon learned that was not the case. Not everybody can do that. And so for me, when I was making my career pivot from the corporate world to being a coach, I knew, or even just in the process of trying to figure out what I wanted to do next, I knew for me that I wanted to incorporate my work every day, leveraging that talent, right? So as a coach, empathy is something that I can use every day with clients. My awareness of people's emotions allows people to feel more comfortable, right? Feel comfortable sharing their own thoughts and feelings. And this can actually help them have huge breakthroughs. So while I may not have ever felt like this was considered a strength in previous life, I've found a way to incorporate it in my day-to-day life so that I can feel really good about digging into how I do this on a regular basis. So for me, hands down, being able to lean into them has been really helpful. Some other reasons that might be beneficial, if you're in the middle of a job search having the self-awareness, I mean, I would say for any of us, right? Like having the self-awareness of what your strengths are really enables you to identify tasks and responsibilities and roles that best align with who you are, right? I know many of us end up on this path of shoulds, right? I can tell you, it might have happened to me along the way that you just are, you might move up in different roles or move on because that's the next thing you should do. But are those really opportunities for you to leverage all of the strengths that you have? The more you get to know yourself and those strengths, the more you're able to identify whether it's jobs, whether it's volunteer opportunities, whether it's, you know, different fun activities you get to do in your life. What are the things you really enjoy doing? Next, really be able to increase your satisfaction and really help you understand where you may feel stuck, right? So it is really clear, and there's been a lot of research done between the job satisfaction and engaging in strengths. So the Gallup organizations does a ton of research in this space, and according to, you know, a study they've done, people who actually use their strengths every day are 6 times more likely to be engaged at work. This is huge. So if you can actually be able to dig into that, those positive work experiences you have can enhance your motivation and your productivity and your real happiness overall in your career. You know, gives you the sense that you're really being able to do something where you're potentially in flow and feeling really good. So it's important to, once you do, you know, understand and discover what your strengths are, that you check in with yourself and really identify where and how you are using them. So are you able to apply them on a daily basis? Maybe some, maybe not others. And if you're feeling unmotivated or unfulfilled right now in a role that you're in, is it because you're not tapping into those strengths? So I leave that to sit for a moment. And in a few moments, we'll get in a little bit more and doing a working session for you to be thinking about your strengths and where that may show up for you. So, you know, a little bit more of an example here, a client of mine that I was recently talking to was feeling really like exhausted and just frustrated. So there was a reason they reached out to me. They wanted to find a new job. In doing strengths work, we learned that, you know, she was a practical thinker. And when improvements needed to be made in the work she was doing, she could address them in a really thoughtful way. She took her time to build relationships and understand the needs of all the key stakeholders, of all the people she was working with to help make changes. And she really built great relationships and actually had really good results, and people appreciated working with her. The challenge was her manager consistently told her that she needed to be more of a risk taker, and she didn't seem to want to win badly enough. So she tried to adapt, but was struggling to work in this way, to constantly have to move at a much quicker pace, constantly have to come up with like really big new ideas. And not that she didn't come up with big new ideas, but at a pace that was, you know, really out of her comfort zone. And it really started causing her to feel a lack of confidence in her abilities. So she started struggling in other ways because of this lack of confidence. So I just ask you to ask yourself, you know, if your position, back to the idea, does your position allow you to lead with your strengths? If you're consistently or constantly forced to work outside of those or work on the weaknesses, right? You know, I specifically set up this session to be focused on strengths and not strengths and weaknesses, because there's a lot of science in that. Yes, we need to understand our weaknesses to make sure they're not derailers for us. But the more that you can be focused in working on building your strengths, the more you're going to be able to feel satisfaction again and happiness in your role, right? So if you're constantly working on your weaknesses, there's a chance you'll see improvement. But who wants to always be focusing that way? You know, I'd say going back to understanding and the importance of knowing your strengths, it's really hard you know, for some of us, right? We don't always know our strengths. And it seemed like there's a mix here of people that know their strengths and that don't know their strengths. And, for those of us that don't, it really makes sense. There's a couple of reasons for this. The first is negativity bias. So our brains are naturally wired to focus on danger. And how we evolve over time is focusing on the areas and things that are on fire or need to be fixed. So when we have strengths or things that are working for us, we're not always aware because they don't need to be fixed. And so what can end up happening here is the challenge of having a really distorted perspective of what we do well, because we're so focused on what we don't do well. I can tell you, and maybe we have folks raise their hands here on this one, but how many people have had a performance review and 90% of the feedback you get is really positive and maybe 10% are areas for development? And when you leave, all you can focus on are those areas for development, right? I know I was in that place. I could tell you over and over again, I could barely remember the things that I did well, but I could always tell you the thing that I needed to improve. And I was always focused on that. And so really being able to shift that so that we can come from a place of focusing on strengths and developing those is a much healthier place to be. The other part of this is that because like we talked about earlier, these strengths or talents are innate to us. They're so ingrained that we don't always know they're there, right? That they come so naturally to us. Like I said, for me and my ability to read other people, my empathy, that I felt like it came so naturally. Everyone must be able to do that. And so it's hard sometimes for us to recognize those things that aren't necessarily the hard skills, right? Like if you're coding, if you're, a machine operator, those are some things that are skills that are, it might be a little bit more tangible, but for some of those other things that are less tangible, the more that we have other people potentially recognize for us or spend some time really digging into what feels good. And we'll get into a little bit more about how to identify your strengths, but really in getting into understanding, like why this is pretty normal. Like you're not alone if you can't 100% identify and articulate your strengths, because, it is very, very common for us to, even if we do, to get to a place where we actually feel comfortable enough being able to talk about them. So that's what we'll hope to accomplish here today, is help you get on that path to help you be able to articulate them. So continuing here on other benefits of knowing your strengths are back to the point of the client that I was working with, right? She was working in areas that were outside of her strengths, and that really caused her lack of confidence. The more that you're able to dig into those strengths, the more that you are able to start applying and developing those strengths to areas in your role that you're in or in a new role that you're going for, you're able to reframe, like I said, away, hopefully, from just focusing on all the weaknesses into reframing into what you have to offer and what impact you can make. And that's a huge shift for people. When you can put things in the light of, I now can engage with the things I'm doing really well and dig into those. And that leads to the next one. The more you can dig in to those, it can lead to developing more expertise. Developing more expertise can be really motivating. And when you're motivated, you tend to want to take on new challenges. So if you can continue to build in the areas of strength versus trying to go from an area that may be a weakness, and I'm not talking about never focusing on weaknesses. Again, we want to make sure the weaknesses are not going to derail us, but the more that we can be focusing on the things we do really well to get even better at them and to really be able to lean into them, the more we will be able to benefit ourselves and our organizations. Does anyone have any questions about this so far? Feel free to either raise your hand. I know we're in a environment that some folks are not on screen, so I can't see if you're raising your hand. So if you want to either open up the mic or shout out, or if you're good, we can keep on moving. Cool. Thanks for the thumbs up, Ellen. Awesome. All right. So now we'll get into the meat of this and how we go about identifying our strengths. For those of you that don't feel 100% comfortable that you can do that, there are a few different ways that you can go about doing that. The first is self-reflection. And again, some of this sounds a little challenging if you haven't been able to do this in the past, but it's also unlikely that you've taken the time and had some really quiet space to reflect. And so, the first area here is really looking at what are your passions and understanding what have you maybe done in the past, what's energized you. Your strengths will come from activities you both enjoy and you do well. So it's what are some of those things that you do naturally. So in a minute, we'll get into some time where we're going to be able to do this work now. I have some prompt questions for you to be able to start digging into that a little bit more. But if you are still struggling there, some of the other things that you can do, and I've done in the past, it's very enlightening. It's kind of fun, a little scary to put out there, but you can also ask other people, right? So find 10 people that know you well in different areas of your life. It could be, friends and family, but maybe a mentor or a manager or somebody else that's witnessed you at your best, and that they can provide you feedback on what you do. And you may be surprised to see some of the things that come back. You also may not, because you may start to see some patterns. And when you start seeing those patterns, you can start to decipher what are some of those strengths, right? I remember as I went through coach certification program, at one point early on, we had to reach out to people and text them and find out, what they thought we were good at. And I had some people come back to me and say, I was really patient and very good at teaching people. And both of those in my mind were like, no way. I do not feel patient at all. But I heard that from many people. And so there was some pattern there. And I had there was disconnect in my brain about what that looked like. But I had to start evaluating that for myself and say, all right, if other people are seeing this, what does this look like for me? Now, maybe it's not something I enjoy. So it has to not just be what are you good at, but what do you enjoy as well? And when you can marry those become things that you can continue to build on for your strengths. And then in the third bucket here, and some of you may have done this already, I leverage tools with my clients as well. And you may have heard of these. Clifton Strengths has a couple different strengths assessment tools that you can dig into. And really the benefit of these two, I mean, you answer a number of questions. They tend to be fairly accurate as we're going back through and in a coaching relationship, being able to dig in and seeing where these show up. They also provide you with some of that language that can help you articulate what it is. So if you're in the process of, going through an interview, job search, and you haven't been comfortable being able to articulate your strengths, these really provide some language that you can tap into to really be able to talk about what it is that you do. Via StrengthsFinder is another one, and there's a free version that you can get for that. So these are tools. All three of these are different ways that you can really start digging into it. But really, again, we're going to start now with the first one. We're going to take about 10 minutes and we're going to do a reflective exercise. So I'm go through some of these questions with you. And if you have, feel free to send me a chat or, direct if you have any questions as we go on, or raise your hand, feel free. Digging into some questions that might help you get at what some of those strengths are for you. So what's one thing you've accomplished that you're proud of? And, what skills or strengths helped you create the results you wanted, right? How did you get that done? Were you really good at building relationships with people so that you were able to connect in with others that were help you to accomplish something? Whatever it may be, start digging into that. What other people asked you for help with? What activities give you energy? What small things do you do that you find satisfying, and how do they lead to strengths? And these could be things you do in your everyday life, right? You're a busy working mom. How do you keep all the trains moving with your family and keep all, right? What are these things that might lead to different strengths that you have? So we'll start now, and we'll take about 5-10 minutes to dig into, start thinking about these questions and what answers look like for you today. as you're thinking about these strengths, if anyone, or things that pop up, if there are any strengths that come up for you, if anyone wants to put some of those in the chat, I'd love to see what some of the strengths are that you all have identified for yourself, if you're starting to get more comfortable with some of the things that are coming up. Ellen, I get it. And those are great ways to find how you can incorporate that in the work that you do. Wow, Amy, so building community for you is a great way to make people come together and have an impact that's even greater than yourself. So that's inspiring. Kathy, that's great awareness to have, being able to mentor. And that can be whether it's in your workplace or outside, is being able to incorporate that into your life in so many different ways. Hi there, Christina. So nice to see you.
You too.
Excellent. Anything? Oh, completing tasks, getting things done. Yeah, Patty, right? Feeling that sense of accomplishment and supporting others to achieve their goals. Those are getting stuff done. I love it. I like to say GSD, but sometimes the stuff is some other word. Getting done. I love it. I love having a checklist and getting stuff done. Ooh, prioritization and balance. So those are strengths, Christina. That's balance. Most people would say balance is a hard thing for them to do. Yeah. And planning out and processing it. Yeah. Planning. Planning it as your favorite word. I know. Planning can be good. Planning can be good. And all of these strengths are always good until sometimes, right, they can become the extreme side of strengths, where planning can be really great, and then executing is also a key piece. If you can put both of those together, it's magic, right? Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing. It's always more fun interacting and engaging and seeing what you all are either know about yourself or are learning about yourself, and how are you going to put that into practice as we, whether you're in the process of looking for another role, or even just how do you take some of these things and really make sure that you're digging in or leaning in to those strengths, so that you can feel better at work, feel more satisfied, and even potentially get recognized in advance in that way. Super. All right. So speaking of that, so if you are in the process of a job search, here are some of the key things that are really critical as you go through the process. So first, again, knowing your strengths. So you started with this exercise today. What I will do following this is send out a worksheet for you to dig in a little bit more if you need some more time. This was a really quick hit to have 5-10 minutes to even just spend time really going through the exercise of understanding what those are. So I'll follow up with a worksheet that you can do. And I would also ask that if you're still feeling a little shaky on it, look into a couple of those other tools, whether it's other people or the actual tools, to help you really be able to hone in on what those strengths are, because you really need that part first before you get to the rest of all of this, right? And so understanding and having that baseline of what are you really good at? Are you really good at getting stuff done? Are you really good at helping other people? Are you good at bringing people together? Once you know that and understand it, really being able to communicate it in a way with confidence and conviction is so critical. And for those of us that tend to be a little bit more on the humble side, it can be really hard to be able to say, I am great at this. And so the more that you get into understanding this, and as we get into the end, practicing what those messages are can be so critical. So the first part, once you do know your strengths, that's really the foundation here, is really tailoring your message. So if you're going for a new job, and this isn't any different than if you were, really going for a job, but it's really, how do you take the strengths that you have and tailor your message to the specific job you're applying for, right? So if you're applying for a project manager job and you get stuff done really well, how do you want to be able to showcase that that is one of your strengths? You know how to get stuff done. So you tailor the message to the specific job and the organization, and how your skill, and we'll get into that a little bit more, how your talent and your strengths and the skills that you've accumulated will help you help that organization. And using the right language there, whether it's, the not vague, right? Getting really specific about what it is that your strength can do and help them do, and provide evidence, right? So what is your strength? What is a real life example of that strength? What is the impact of that strength on the organization? And maybe even how much you enjoy using that strength, right? And then, I don't know, maybe an example here. So say you're going after a customer service role and you have a strength that you really like. You actually like public speaking. I know not everybody does, but you actually like public speaking. And maybe you say, I know a lot of people are afraid of public speaking, but I really like it. And I'm very good at it. And don't say actually, sorry, that was, don't couch any of this stuff. See, this is me practicing, still being confident. So, we'll take that one again. So a lot of people aren't good at public speaking, but I'm very good at it. And I actually really love doing it. And I often use this skill to support the teams I'm working on. In fact, last week, I presented our new customer service portal to a prospective client, and they signed up right away on the spot. It was very gratifying to be able to accomplish this goal of getting this new client on board. And I get a lot of personal fulfillment in helping my clients and helping my colleagues with presentations. And so here's how I have the strength of public speaking. Here's how I used that strength. What it accomplished was actually getting a new client on board, and I enjoy it and help other people on the team. So here's how it can be beneficial to you as an organization. And again, just an example of, didn't have all the context of what the role was, and really important to understand. You wouldn't necessarily want to share that one if that's not part of your job at all. But if there, you see in the job description that can be a benefit or to the organization, really key to be able to talk to all of those components of it. And then really see clearly here, right? Practicing it over and over so that you're not actually saying, I actually am good at it, right? Because you don't want to couch it with that. You get to the place where you feel really comfortable with that talent that you have and that you are able to share it. So practice, get to a place where you feel more comfortable and confident in what you're saying, because it will come across as you're delivering your message. Does anyone have any questions here, or any other experience that you've had in doing this that you'd want to be able to add here? Okay. So while this, at some point we all are in a job search in some point in our careers. But if you're not currently in a job search, this is all still really critical information if you're building your career, right? Understanding your strengths can really help set you up for success and more happiness, as we've talked about. So here, the real key piece of this, when you do understand your strengths, is also including those in your goals, right? There may be goals that help your organization achieve certain things, but how can you leverage your own talents to help your organization achieve its goals, and maybe even some goals that are not necessarily the metrics that are on the larger roll up of a list of the organization's goals. So the more that you can tap into your strengths, say it is public speaking, how can you leverage your public speaking skill to potentially help your group meet a goal, help your organization get a goal, even reach a goal, even if it's not necessarily in your day-to-day job? How can you find ways to tap into those strengths of yours to really not only build your own repertoire of activities, but how are you helping your organization? So really connecting them in to the benefit of the organization as well. Really then being able to, right, show up that way and leverage it. So if it's something, maybe it's not even, maybe public speaking isn't necessarily part of your role, but maybe someone else in the group is doing presentations and that's something that you're good at. Maybe it's something that you can help the team in another way be able to do. So really being able to showcase your strengths. Really important here, and we started touching on this earlier, is that while some of these talents are innate to us, right? Like our ability to be a connector, our ability to help people, they're innate. It doesn't mean that we can just sit and rest on our laurels and think everything is going to be great. We can get better. The more that we invest time and energy in building skills, practicing those things can help us, right? Someone could be a good presenter, but the more they potentially take a class or look for other opportunities to practice, the better they're going to get. And so continue to strengthen your strengths, right? So that you can show up and showcase them where you're presenting to new people that have never seen you before. You're also looking for ways that you can, strength building behaviors, right? How are you potentially teaching other people, right? If you have an innate talent, how can you leverage it to help other people be even better than they are and create an even better workplace for them? And so really being able to dig into making it a little bit more official, right? So you may know some of your strengths, right? It may be something that's valued by your organization. It may not be. The key here is to best understand, how are you able to leverage your strengths? Are you able to leverage your strengths on a day-to-day basis? If you're not, are there opportunities for you to tap into those strengths in ways that you haven't been? And if you're really feeling like you're absolutely just not aligned to be able, like this client of mine that just was in a really tough spot for her, is it time to look for other opportunities for yourself? And so, the key here, number one, clearly understanding them so that like a lot of times I have clients come to me that just feel stuck, right? Like the crux of this, and they don't know why. And so much of the time it can be because they're really not aligned anymore with either their values or the things that they're good at. And they may have ended up on a path because it's just the natural next step, right? You may end up in a really good place. You're working at a great organization and the next opportunity just opens up for you, but maybe it's not exactly what you want to do. And then it just leads to other things that are still not exactly what you want to do. And so ultimately, at the end of the day, it's digging into this important self-reflection to continuously, because some of these things do evolve over time. What is working for you now? What is not working for you anymore? How can you take a look at ensuring that you are not trying to be this fish that's trying to climb a tree because that's what the rest of the organization is doing, but that's not who you are? How do you now tap into what it is that you're really good at so that you can be the genius that you are meant to be. Because it doesn't always feel that way when you're out of your fishbowl, if you will, and really be able to tap into what it is that you're really good at. So that's where I'll leave us for today. I want to open this up for some questions and see if there was a key takeaway here and how this may help you, or what you're still missing now, and how I may be of help to you. Anyone have a key takeaway that they want to share in the chat? Or doesn't have to be in the chat. If you want to come off mic, I'm always happy to hear someone else other than myself.
Those are some great questions to help us reflect on our strengths and where we can tap into them so that we can keep leveraging them in a positive and really helpful way. And so, and all the rest of it just helped us sort of build on that knowledge we already had, but it's really nice to have some targeted questions to get us thinking in new ways.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. And it's just, even if you're not doing a job search, it's nice to just slow down and think, what the heck am I good at? And how does that continue to help me think about how I talk to clients or talk to other folks, and with that in the forefront, and build confidence too, which I like.
Yeah, Ellen, you're right. And as we all know, we're so busy, right? Most of us don't have a lot of time that we're reflecting on things for ourselves, right? You're just going, you're doing. You're not taking the space to actually say, how would I want to answer these questions? Has anything changed for me? And what am I in the place that I'm getting to leverage, that I'm, using all of these things? So thank you for that. Appreciate the takeaways. So the other thing I will offer, so I will send out an email with, again, the questions, the prompts, so that you can spend more time reflecting. If you can take another, 30 minutes of your own time at some time to dig into this. I would also, because you did show up today, that I would offer a free 30-minute strategy session to be able to talk through this with you and dig into what those strengths look like. How may it show up for you personally, and what might you want to do for your next steps to help you get either more clarity, or, be able to figure out what you're doing with it now that you've had an epiphany that you're in the wrong place and you need to find something new. Happy to have a strategy session. So I will send you, you can either go on my website and be able to just book some time there on the calendar. I will also send an email with a link in there, if you're interested to be able to book time with me to strategize about what this looks like for you now. Super.
Thank you for making us slow down, Heidi. I appreciate it. I could have easily done 20 other things, and I actually paid attention, which was awesome. Thank you.
Ooh,
I know. Not a great thing to admit, but yeah, that's it.
Thank you, and appreciate you all taking the time today. I know, again, there's lots of other things that you could be doing with this time right now. And the fact that you're investing in your own education about yourself to help you be able to move and take the next best step for you, whatever that may be. I really applaud that, because we have a lot of things that we could be doing, Ellen, right? A lot of things, and you took the time for yourself, and I appreciate that and really applaud you for doing that. Super. All right, everybody. So you can have, unless there are any other questions here, you can have some time back.
Thanks, Heidi. Thanks for sharing your knowledge.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was great.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Take care, everybody.
You too. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.